Hi friends, I'm Scott Giles, minister hypnotist and the guy who shows you how to get help from the other side. The other side is the mental and spiritual worlds which you access through your unconscious mind, which is why hypnosis can become the grand highway to a better you and a better future, because your unconscious mind is the greatest goal-achieving mechanism ever evolved. You don't have to stay stuck or ill or even be unhappy, because there is a power that can help you. Well, today I want to talk about being addicted to love. If that sounds a little familiar, it's probably because you're somewhere around the age I am, because in 1986, the English rock singer Robert Palmer released a music video called Addicted to Love. It became his signature video and was a hit on the Billboard 100. It's a fun video. You'll find it on YouTube. If you want to look for it, check it out. But can one really be addicted to love? I mean, that's not an official diagnosis. There is nothing in the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of the American Psychiatric Association about love being addicted, because it's not really harmful in a way that substances can be. Yet, there can be no doubt that people in intense love can do rash things. They can make bad decisions, engage in impulsive behavior. People will abandon their partners or their families, justifying what they've done, this disordered behavior, by saying it's due to passion and the love was so strong it couldn't be denied. There's even kind of some cultural understanding of that. When we hear someone justify some disordered thing they did because of passion, we feel at least a little bit of sympathy for that. In 1961, the great performer Elvis Presley recorded a song which resonates to all of this, titled "Can't Help Falling in Love." It was from his Blue Hawaii album. Part of the lyrics go, "Shall I stay? Would it be a sin if I can't help falling in love with you? Like a river flows surely to the sea, darling, so it goes. Some things are meant to be." When I was in high school, people would talk about a word called kismet, and I believe it's an Arabic word. And it means that fate that brings people together, and it's a power that cannot be denied. Well, the reality is, as a helping professional myself for more than 40 years, you see it a lot. People have been messing up their lives and the lives of others for a long time because they experience this intense romantic emotion that can lead them to do unwise and impulsive things. Now, love does have a dual nature. It is biological. There is a hormone called oxytocin, which is produced in the body when you're feeling that intense bonding, and it's very powerful. And it's cultural. There is an idealization of these passionate love stories in legends and songs. There's a whole tradition of something called courtly love in the Middle Ages, a time when marriages were arranged and people often found themselves married to someone they didn't even like, but they would then form another relationship, often platonic, to get their romantic needs met with someone for whom they felt a stronger bond, and that hormone oxytocin could get started. And we do see people who behave like they are, in fact, addicted to love. One of the hallmarks of this is they engage in what I sometimes call serial monogamy. They only are with one person at a time, but they're with a whole chain of them. They stay until that initial passion wears off, and then they decide that that means the relationship is over, so they move on to a new relationship and a new passion, never staying long enough to let a mature relationship with another person develop. And I've got to tell you, again, as a helping professional, and as someone who's been married for 40 years, it takes time. That initial passion needs to fade. You need to discover who the other person is with all of their strengths and weaknesses, and then see if there's a compatibility and a bonding. That's the kind of love which can go the distance, but it's not the one you get addicted to. You can seem to be addicted to that passion. In 1970, Dorothy Tenoff wrote a book called Love and Limerence, The Experience of Being in Love. She gave the term limerence as a name to describe that intense initial feeling in a romantic relationship. Now, she notes in her book that that intense feeling doesn't last, and that's probably good because people who are in limerence become so closely bonded and intense about each other, they've got no energy for anyone else, and we never get any work done. It doesn't last, and that's, like I said, a good thing. But some people want to believe that it should last, and so when that initial passion fades, they just move on. Well, in the 1980s, psychotherapist Harville Hendricks and his spouse Helen LeKay Hunt created something they called imago therapy because they thought they found an explanation for why this intense, almost addictive kind of passion forms in a relationship. To understand it, let me explain. Now, there is, in fact, nothing more helpless than an infant in its cradle. But from the infant side of the transaction, it experiences itself as being all-powerful. Its every wish is someone else's command. All the infant has to do is express anger, crying, and someone will come who perfectly knows what the infant's need is without having to be told, and perfectly meets that need. So there's a feeling of omnipotence with this. Your every wish commands someone to perfectly meet your needs. And if you're not getting what you want, all you have to do is express anger. The problem is that this can occur in an infant's life because an infant's needs are few and obvious. But the unconscious mind is forming at this time. And so people can come to believe unconsciously that there is this promise of unlimited nurture from others that we're just entitled to. But time passes. The infant's needs are no longer everyone else's commands. In fact, the child discovers that other people have all kinds of expectations about the infant's behavior, and realizing that can be shocking. One of my former supervisors in the American Association of Pastoral Counselors called that the broken promise. We think that there's a promise given to us in life itself that all of our needs should be perfectly met by someone else, and we don't have to even take responsibility for articulating those needs. But that promise always gets broken eventually. And if we're not careful, we'll spend the rest of our life looking for someone who we think might keep that promise. You look at what people in a relationship do when they're having trouble. Well, if you don't know why I'm upset, I'm certainly not going to tell you. That's the infant mind, because the infant doesn't have to express its needs. The other person just knows. I would often find when I was doing weddings as a member of the clergy, you'd see a couple come in to talk about getting married, and sometimes you just want to roll your eyes. Well, oh yeah, I have a PhD and he dropped out of high school, but it will work because we're in love. That's that feeling of omnipotence. But the reality is that those issues will eventually become something the people in the relationship will have to deal with. They're not dealing with it at the early stages of that relationship because they're actually submerging their differences in order to enjoy that omnipotent feeling. But the thing to realize is that the expectations created in infancy that fuel the initial passion in a relationship is really an illusion, because you're not actually engaged with the other person. You're engaged with your fantasy that they are going to completely meet all of your needs, and you don't even have to take responsibility for saying what those needs are. The reality is that in any relationship, you've got to hang in there until that initial passion fades, and it will. And then you'll discover what the real relationship is like and who you're actually in a relationship with. And then you discover if the relationship can go the distance. So there is a danger that you can behave as if you were addicted to love. If you become so bonded to that passion, that wonderful feeling of omnipotence that occurs in the early stages of a relationship, then you will behave like an addiction, and you will make disordered decisions. But real love is not addictive. It's realistic. It can go the distance because you're not engaged with that illusion from infancy. Hey, thank you for your time and attention today. I'll be back next week with another talk on a different subject. If you're wondering if I can be of help to you, consider working directly with me. We can work in person or online. So feel free to reach out through my website for a complimentary, no-obligation discovery call. And always use the full power of your mind, because you deserve it.